Welcome back. The National Assembly Parliamentary Standing Committee on Constitutional and Legal Affairs is currently conducting visits to capital projects in regions. This committee plays a crucial role in ensuring the alignment of projects with constitutional and legal regulations. They work tirelessly to maintain transparency, accountability and legality in the development and execution of these projects. Joining us with more insight is the Chairperson of the National Assembly of the Parliamentary Standing Committee, Mr. Kletus Karondo, all the way from Katima Mulilo in the Zambezi region. Good morning to you, sir, and welcome to Good Morning Namibia.
Good morning, Denver, and welcome for having me.
Very well, Mr. Karondo. Could you please provide us with an overview of the purpose of these regional visits?
Thank you. The purpose of the visit is for the Standing Committee on Constitutional and Legal Affairs to assess the level of implementation of capital projects earmarked in the development programs, medium-term expenditure framework from 2018 up to date. In this process, we in the committee believes this will give us an opportunity to identify shortcomings and challenges experienced by the government offices, ministries and agencies, and come up with recommendations that would help the government achieve its objectives and provide the necessary service to the public at large.
Very well. I would just like us to take a look at the period under review that you just mentioned, namely 2018 up to date. Why is that the period that you consider as far as these capital projects are concerned?
We are mindful of the fact that the government programs and activities were hampered by the COVID-19 during the 2020-2021. However, we decided to embark on our programs from this period to ensure a brief level of accountability and to provide the Namibian public at large with an update and insight into what the government have aimed or currently busy doing to achieve.
So at the heart of the exercise would be to establish compliance to governance. Talk to us in more detail about the specific objectives the committee aims to achieve during the visits.
The Standing Committee aims to achieve and progress on the implementation of the capital projects to the National Assembly with recommendations to the public institutions for implementation within set time frame. And we expect to be briefed on the achievements, challenges that the Ministry of Justice, including the judiciary, is experiencing when it comes to capital projects. And thirdly, the Standing Committee on Constitutional and Legal Affairs would like, during this process, to assess the process of coordination between the regional councils and the head office in general.
How do these briefings during these visits contribute to the committee's efforts in maintaining constitutional and legal compliance? In other words, are briefings sufficient to establish whether or not compliance indeed exists?
Within the provision of our ways of operating, we think that these briefings offer an insight into what is currently taking place, even though not sufficient, but it helps us to understand what is actually going on the ground. So the Standing Committee of the National Assembly on Constitutional and Legal Affairs is of the opinion that through these visits, the committee will become aware of the challenges being experienced in the execution of capital projects and the lack of effective service delivery to the citizens. Therefore, we are of the opinion that through these constant follow-up mechanisms with the line ministries, the committee will ensure legal and constitutional compliance in the process.
Mr. Karondo, let's further look at the role of transparency, even in the event of non-compliance. If there is transparency, certainly something can be done about the challenges. Is that also your take?
Yes, correct. We believe that through constant consultation, constant engagement with the relevant stakeholders, we will ensure that all stakeholders are kept in the know, are kept up to date in terms of the legal provision so that they can detect non-compliance during the implementation of capital projects. And we are of the opinion that funds that are appropriated through the national budget should be accounted for, as this will ensure that we develop the relationship of trust with our Namibian public in general and the electorate in particular.
You mentioned when you spoke to us about the specific objectives of the committee and its visits to the regions, that coordination is also one of the matters that you look at. Talk to us about why that is so critically important.
It is important to ensure that there is proper coordination between the relevant stakeholders, offices, administrations, agencies that are involved. Because the lack of coordination will obviously result into that the intended objectives will not be achieved in a set time frame. Hence, coordination, we believe, is very, very important. Many at times we find that there's lack of consultation on capital project officials on the ground, and the judicial and administrative officials on the ground have no information when projects are scheduled to be completed, and there seems to be no input from local magistrates, prosecutors, and legal clerks that are on the ground. There seems to be not properly brought on board so that they give the inputs. But hence, consultation is key if we are to ensure successful implementations of these capital projects.
Have you detected any shortcomings as far as compliance is concerned thus far, sir?
As far, because this is our first stop in Zambezi region, we'll be moving over to other regions in the next few coming days. We have already detected shortcomings that I think need to be ironed out, like I earlier on alluded to, lack of consultations, and the fact that the capital project earmarked for development in a specific period of time is not being completed on time. It's dragging on. And at the same time, the issue of the regional officials pointing fingers to the officials at head office as being responsible for the delay. And in addition, the bureaucratic processes that is going on between the regional offices or regional council and the head office, that's currently delaying the process of some of the capital projects. Those are but some of the few challenges that we have identified in the process.
I'm sure those warrant additional investigation, but at this preliminary stage, what would you attribute those delays to, apart from the finger pointing that you are also observing?
I think implementation of capital project itself is not an easy process if relevant stakeholders do not know what is expected from them at any given time. Hence, we think, apart from the factors that I alluded earlier on, we think that this committee will do its best and at the end compile a comprehensive report that will be tabled in the National Assembly for discussion, and if adopted, recommendations that will be compiled in this report will then be forwarded to the relevant offices, ministries and agencies for implementation purposes.
And in the event that the National Assembly does not endorse these recommendations to be implemented, what is to happen?
Usually, if the recommendations are not endorsed, that would mean that report is referred back and it's thrown out. That means we'll have to create more time for another process to help delve much into details in what actually happened. But what we do is the following. After having compiled our report, we will engage the relevant officials from the various ministries involved, in this particular case, the Ministry of Justice and the Judiciary, to hear from them whether what we have found on the ground is true, what have transpired. With this form of approach of checks and balances, it ensures that there's no way that the report will be far-fetched, but this ensures that the report will be specific and to the point. Hence, it will definitely enjoy the support of members of Parliament, because there will be proof to show that this is what we came across and this is what we found on the ground.
Mr. Karondo, in the event that the committee finds on the ground that a crime has been committed, a crime is being committed, it could be counterproductive and counterintuitive to wait until you compile a report, such is presented to the National Assembly, finally endorsed, and recommendations communicated to the relevant implementing partners. What happens in the instance of you suspecting or observing that a crime is in operation?
In fact, in cases where we discover that a crime has been committed, we do not wait for the compilation of the report, but we notify the relevant stakeholders involved in the process of ensuring that the law is adhered to. So the relevant stakeholders, such as the police and other security clusters like the ACCs, will definitely be notified to help clarify or to come in and help shed more light on what actually transpired. We do not necessarily wait for the report to be compiled and be tabled. In the case we detect there's reasonable ground to believe that the crime was committed in the process.
Any final thoughts before we let you go, sir? Perhaps you can talk to us about how the rest of the regional visits will unfold?
As of now, we intend to move on after Zambezi. We'll move on to the other regions of Kavango East region, Kavango West region, and we'll end up in the Ohangwena regions. The scope of the standing committee is to ensure that a level of compliance will, in the process, tremendously improve. We know for sure that there will be some delays, but at the completion of this exercise, we ensure that we work towards seeing to it that compliance in the processes has been improved and that the visits positively impact the development and progress of capital projects. And looking forward that as from now onwards, there will be a smooth operation between the regional councils and the head office. That proper coordination that I earlier on alluded to will be ensured in the process. That's what we are looking forward to.
In that vein, we do remember one of the mantras of the late President Kengop, that transparency and accountability equal trust. Is that not so, sir?
It's correct, yes.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the comprehensive update. Travel safely and good luck with the engagements.
Most welcome. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you very much. That was Mr. Kletus Karondo. He's the chairperson of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Legal and Constitutional Affairs, talking to us about regional visits to establish whether or not there is indeed compliance relating to capital projects.